I'm gonna name all three, and then I'm gonna kind of explain maybe the one that might be least relevant to you at this time, and then go to the one that might be most relevant to you at this time. So we do contracting, capital, and counseling. It's the 3 C's. SBA does contracting, capital, and counseling, okay? So how do we do those things? Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the contracting piece, okay? Because that might not be most relevant to you right now, so we'll kind of just get that out of the way. So the business opportunity specialist side of me does, there's small businesses and large businesses, they sell their goods to the federal government, okay? Like if you're driving down the street and you see this big like ADOT project or something like that, you know, there's all these ADOT workers, or you know, you see some sort of big building being built, like a government building, most likely it's not actually the employees of ADOT, it's ADOT has contracted to a private business to build that infrastructure. So the government actually hires a lot of private businesses, small and large, to build things on its behalf. So that's what we mean by contracting. So what SBA has is SBA has what's called a socially and economically disadvantaged contracting program. It's called 8A. 8A. And what it is what we do out of the office is we have firms, businesses that join the 8A program. It's a super long application process. I mean, they send their financials, they send their business plans, they send a breakdown of who the owners are, who the leadership of the organization is, and based on the ownership and control of the organization, a business can qualify for the 8A program. So socially and economically qualify for the 8A program. So basically, the government sets aside 23% of contracting dollars just for small businesses. So 23% of the money that the federal government spends is supposed to be spent on small businesses. It's like a mandate. They have to spend it on small businesses, right? And so the way they do that is through all these little programs, one of them being the 8A program. So the socially and economically disadvantaged program. So what does socially disadvantaged mean? So if you're a business that owns 51% of a business and you basically socially disadvantaged means non-white, basically, is what it means. It means Black American, Asian American, South Asian American, any sort of race or ethnicity that has been, like, so to speak, discriminated against would be considered a socially disadvantaged business if it's 51% ownership. Females are also not considered socially disadvantaged. So just by being a female, you're not considered socially disadvantaged. We have let women-owned businesses in the program that, let's say you're in like construction, because construction is, you know, it's like dominated by males, so to speak, socially dominated. We've had females that have actually written letters to SBA and have said, in my industry, I'm disadvantaged because, you know, most of the leadership in my industry is male. So even though I'm a woman, can I still be admitted into the program? And they've been admitted into the program before. So that's the socially disadvantaged part. Economically disadvantaged, the business also has to be economically disadvantaged. And what does that mean? That means basically you have to be considered small according to the federal government. And it's based on your industry. So like construction industry, you have to have like net revenue less than like 36.5 million a year. Or with engineering, it has to be less than 15 million a year. Most businesses are small businesses, so usually that's not an issue either. They can get in also based on their economic disadvantage. So that's kind of the 8A program in a real nutshell, socially and economically disadvantaged program. And part of that 23% money, set aside money, goes to businesses that are in the 8A program, okay? So that's the contracting piece. it wouldn't necessarily apply, I mean, unless, you have to be in business at least for 2 years. So unless you've been in business for 2 years and you have goods to sell with the federal government, it doesn't really apply. But I just thought I'd mention it anyway, since that's the 3 C's of what we do. So these next 2 might be of more interest to you. The last one especially. So I'm going to talk about number 2. So number 2 is capital acquisition, access to financing, access to capital. So what happens a lot is there are individuals who own businesses, right? And they maybe have had like personal bankruptcies recently, or maybe their credit scores are not super high, or maybe they don't quite have, like they have a new business, but the cash is not flowing through the business enough yet. You know what I'm saying? They're making minimal cash flow. The SBA program has a capital access program where basically what happens is we work with lenders. So we work with large lenders, like you could just imagine the really big lenders, like you can name them off the top of your head. We also work with community lenders, and we work with even like micro lenders, really, really small lenders. And what we do is we will guarantee a portion of the money that they disperse to people who may not normally qualify for loans from that institution because of their credit score, because they've had bankruptcies, because of the industry. It's a high-risk industry, like someone said restaurants. That is considered a high-risk industry. It is considered a high-risk industry. So just by sheer fact that it's a high-risk industry, meaning they do go out of business more frequently than, let's say, like a dental practice or something. It doesn't mean your business is going to go out of business, but it means they more frequently do, because it's considered a high-risk industry. Some lenders, they just don't want to work with like restaurants. You know what I'm saying? So you have to find the right lender. And so what SBA does is we incentivize lenders to work with borrowers that aren't like perfect borrowers because of industries, bankruptcy, lack of cash flow, so on and so forth, poor credit scores. We incentivize them to work with borrowers by guaranteeing part of the loan. So what does a guarantee mean? So basically, a guarantee basically means that if the loan goes bad, for instance, like let's say you do actually can't pay the loan anymore, if it goes bad, it goes into default, SBA will reimburse the lender anywhere from 50 to 90% of the remaining principal of the loan. So that's basically what that means. So by guaranteeing these institutions, we will guarantee the loans that you disperse through the SBA government guarantee program. By guaranteeing those loans, we want you to work with people, with businesses that you wouldn't normally work with. So we don't loan directly, but we work with lenders that do, and we guarantee their loans. Did you have a question?
Yeah, the business that went under, and you guarantee the loan for, are they still holding accountable for the loan? Or is that you guys clear?
Is the borrower still held accountable for the loan? Is that what you're asking? Okay, so it's government, because the government is guaranteeing it, it could get charged off in bankruptcy. Like if you go into bankruptcy or something, they could charge it off so that you're still not liable. So you're not
automatically clearing the debt.
You're not automatically clearing the debt. You have to go through a process of clearance. And because it is government guaranteed, that's actually a good question. Like let's say you wanted to get another government guaranteed loan. Like let's say you wanted to get a house, like FHA, Federal Housing Authority, Federal Housing Administration, maybe. Because you had this like you didn't fully pay a loan that was guaranteed by the U.S. government, you may not qualify for the FHA loan, but you may. It depends on how it was handled. If it was charged off, you may still qualify. If there was like an offer and compromise, like you agreed to pay a lesser amount, you may not qualify. It's really tricky, but basically that's a good question for that reason, because sometimes with federal money, it doesn't always like escape you.
I'm gonna interrupt you because I'm gonna let you,
Yes.
the file is open and ready and waiting for you. Just click on the bottom of the screen and it's, I wanna bring this up. Take a look at this real quick. You can pull the file up and you can't see it, okay? All right, because this is the SBA website, and you will find there's a huge number of resources. Everything from videos that tell you to help you learn about how to do things. There's information about accessing things. You see the folder down the bottom. I knew you were going to take my screen away from you, but the folder should be there, so feel free to do that. But there's a lot of information out here that'll help you, that'll tell you not only about the resources that the SBA offers to businesses, okay, but some of it is direct tutoring information that will help you understand how to get there, how to do things that you need to understand for your business. And so we'll get a chance to look at this.
Yeah, that's
okay?
I'll present some places they can go,
Right.
how they can
So,
navigate.
but I want to let you guys
I'll
open
do
up
the
your folder.
presentation,
Yeah, I just wasn't sure which folder.
and then
it was.
I'll do,
Okay.
and then I'll show you guys how to like navigate it. Because it's sometimes hard to navigate. I'm just kind of skip a little bit of this stuff. Yeah, I'll just start here and then
It's been on the entire time.
this is the contract program. Okay, so guarantee, we already talked about guarantees, it's kind of an insurance policy, so to speak. We guarantee 50 to 90% of the principal balance, depending on the loan program. And we also offer different loan products. And again, this is through our participating lenders. If you are looking for an SBA loan, you don't come to SBA directly. You go to one of our participating lenders and talk to them about an SBA loan. Can you tell me about an SBA loan?
I've got a question. How do they know if a lender is an SBA lender?
I can show you guys on the website. We have a lender list on the AEC SBA website. That it's just a list of our participating lenders with phone numbers that should direct you to the SBA person at that institution. So I can show you guys how to navigate there after, in just a second, just a couple minutes here. So SBA guaranteed loans, we don't allow balloon payments, which is very, we don't allow the lender to give to have a term that includes a balloon payment.
Okay, what that means is that, let's say you need to borrow $100,000 for your business to get you started. The lender cannot set it up so that you make payments for 4 years. At the end of 4 years, you have not paid off the $100,000. You still have $25,000 left. And at the end of 4 years, they expect you to suddenly pay $25,000 in one lump sum. The SBA says, no, that's not going to work, because most businesses can't do that. That puts you in a position of almost forcing you into refinancing that balance on that loan. And the SBA says, no, we want to make it workable. So the SBA says, no, you can't make those big lump sums at the end.
Right, and that's important, and that's a great advantage to businesses. And if the institution, if the lender wants an SBA guarantee, they can't have that as part of the agreement. It's not allowed. We also offer longer terms. So like there's certain types of loans, like a working capital loan, for example, a loan that's used to finance like payroll, utilities and stuff like that. We actually, the normal payback term maximum is like 7 years. We will allow a borrower to pay that back up to 10 years. So we allow longer terms. So that means your monthly payment is less, the longer term, the less your monthly payment is. We also cap interest rates. So we don't allow the lenders to charge over a certain amount in interest. Yes.
I was gonna ask who determines the interest rate. Is it still up to the lender completely, or does the SBA decide cash in there and talk about it?
We don't negotiate with the lender on behalf of the borrower, so it would be like a normal situation where you're negotiating with the lender based on like your credit profile, but we say you can't go over a certain percentage. So right now, you can't go over 8%. So you can't go over 8%. So, but whether or not it's like 4%, 6%, that's the negotiation between you and the lender.
Let me, in safety to the SBA, let you know that because the bank perceives the business to be a greater risk, which is why they want the SBA guarantee in there, is that the bank is probably gonna perceive greater risk and wanna charge a higher interest rate. So 4% is probably quite unrealistic. You know, somewhere between 7.5% and 8% is probably the ballpark you're gonna be in. And they're gonna bump up against that 8% as often as the bank can because of the higher risk factor the bank perceives themselves to be in. Okay, yes?
Government SBA, everything's alone, so why is it?
Because the bank still has some of its money on the line, and it still has to go through the whole process of working with the SBA to get that loan. And there is additional paperwork and process that the bank goes through in order for the SBA to participate.
Yeah, there is. There's a couple more pieces of paperwork. There's a borrower form, there's a lender information form. It's been greatly reduced over the last like 5 years or so. They've really reduced the paperwork, but there still is more paperwork that needs to be completed. So like with the guarantee, the SBA will guarantee, let's say like 75%. So that means no matter what, if the loan goes bad, the bank is still on the hook for like 25%. So they still have exposure, they still have risk. So that's why, you know, the SBA doesn't guarantee the whole loan. They wouldn't reimburse the whole amount back to the lender. So it still is a risk for them. Just some quick stats. The 7A loan program, which is like the umbrella loan program, loans up to $5 million. SBA will guarantee 75%, 85% if it's less than $150,000, which a lot of loans are less than $150,000. Money can be used for most business purposes. It's a very flexible product. You can purchase real estate, purchase equipment, working capital, refinance. This product just is very flexible. We just have some different products, but that's something that, you know, once you talk to the lender kind of has a better idea of what makes more sense. So you kind of discuss that with the lender. This is like, it's a lot of detail. So the general eligibility to qualify for an SBA guaranteed loan is that you must be considered a small business. So again, it's your industry. What is your industry? And I can show you how to figure out what is considered small in your industry when you go online. Type of business. Some businesses are not eligible for SBA guarantee. Like someone said, a pawn shop. So like, let's say for instance, more than half of your revenue is coming from the interest of the goods, then that's not eligible. You know, so more of it has to come from sale of goods than interest that you're accruing on goods. So it's just, you know, there's little caveats, but many businesses are eligible. I mean, it's not like super duper, there's just like some little caveats to it. You must be a for-profit business. Unfortunately, SBA does not give grants, unfortunately, and we also don't guarantee nonprofit loans for nonprofits. You do have to be a for-profit business. And you must meet the individual lender's credit requirements. So you do have to somehow meet their credit requirements. But this is the thing with lenders, okay? We have people calling and they say, oh, you know, I contacted like this big lender and they said, no, I can't get a loan. But I asked them, how many places did you approach? How many lenders did you approach? You know, on average, you should be approaching at least 3 lenders because not every lender is looking for the same type of customer, and not every lender is conservative. You know, some lenders are like, this is the kind of borrower we're looking for, that's it. Other lenders, usually more the community-based lenders that are more like state-focused, like they have most of their branches in Arizona, they might be a little more flexible because they're looking to promote the economic development of Arizona. They have their interest in Arizona, right? So they might be a little more flexible. So you just have to find the right lender. Just because the first lender says no or the second lender says no, doesn't mean that you can't get a loan. These are just some of the businesses that are not eligible. So like gambling businesses, passive owned real estate, like if you're doing it to invest in real estate that you're going to be making like, you know, rent money off of, rent revenue, that does not qualify. Like we were talking about earlier, if you defaulted on a previous federal loan, it may or may not. You you are currently incarcerated on probation or parole, you don't qualify. You have to finish that, and then you may qualify. We do have, on the first Wednesday of every month, we have all day basically in our office. We have seminars. We have 2 seminars on the first Wednesday of every month. One of them is on lending, our lending program, and one of them is on contracting, our contracting program. The lending one is very interesting because what we actually do is we talk about SBA, we talk about our loan products, we talk about what I've been talking about, but in more detail. But another cool thing about the loan clinic from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is that we also go over the credit factors that a lender looks at when they're evaluating a borrower. So we go over credit score. We go over business cash flow. We go over management ability. We go over the 7 different factors that a lender looks at when they're evaluating a borrower so that you gain a better understanding based on your own personal situation, how you would be perceived by a lender. You would gain a better understanding of your weaknesses as a borrower and how to mitigate those weaknesses and your strengths as a borrower. So that's actually a really good clinic to attend if you ever have the opportunity. It is at our, that's our address there. We're like in Midtown, in Phoenix. And then the contracting clinic talks about our different, the MBA program and some of the other certification
What's
programs.
the closest cross street to me?
Thomas.
Central and Thomas in downtown Phoenix.
Central and Thomas in downtown Phoenix. Okay, so lastly, there were those 3 C's. Remember, there was contracting, capital, and counseling. So this, I think, might be the most relevant to you right now. It's the counseling piece. So we've had past, you guys are working on bids. Some of you are working on business plans, right? So we've had past students seek the assistance of a counselor to help them with their business plan. I can also show you links on the website to help you with your business plan. If not now, in the future, if you're ever doing a business plan for a business that you're planning on establishing. So we have 3 primary, the ones in red, those are the 3 primary resource partners. So SBA, if you call our district office and you're looking for counseling, and when I talk about counseling, I'm talking about business plan, I'm talking about tips on how to market your business, I'm talking about understanding your financial statements, strengthening your financial statements. The counseling is across the board. Any type of business counseling you're looking for, they can offer to you free of charge. Our 3 primary business partners, well, our 2 primary business partners are SCORE and SBDC. So SCORE stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives, and SBDC stands for Small Business Development Centers. So SCORE is comprised of, just as it says, retired executives. So it's comprised of men and women who have actually worked in these industries, men and women who have owned businesses, men and women who have written the checks. They've been like the chiefs of the business. So they're really good if you're looking for kind of like a mentor in a particular industry. They're also good for any sort of like, any type of information, like, like business plan, like basic information that you might need. SBDC, Small Business Development Center, is comprised of individuals who, some of them have like an academic background in business, some of them have owned businesses. They're really good if you're looking for, like help with your financial statements, help understanding them, understanding even like your taxes, business taxes. How should I structure my business? Should I structure it as like an S Corp? Should I structure it as an LLC? They're both good for, any type of assistance you might need. Those SCORE, they're retired, so they could also be mentors, But with those 2 groups, you could visit them as many times as you want. There's no like limit as to how many times you visit them. And some people, they say, oh, well, I went to a SCORE counselor, didn't have a good vibe. Well, then try either another SCORE counselor or try SBDC or the other way around. I mean, it's about finding the right person for you to build a relationship with. The Arizona PTAC, the Arizona Procurement Technical Assistance Center, that's more reserved for, they work at the SBDC, That's for like the contracting side. Like if you're trying to figure out like which agencies are the best agencies to target, to sell your goods to. If you're applying for the program and you need help to apply for the 8A program, the PTAC is really a good place to go. And then we also have the women's business centers. We have the micro lenders, participating lenders. And there's also chambers, universities, community colleges. So there's incubators. There are a lot of resources, state and local governments. I know that the city of Phoenix had a program for a while called Expand, which was basically a collateral enhancement program. So if you didn't have enough collateral to put up to get a loan, they would actually, if you were a business in the city of Phoenix, they would actually pledge collateral on your behalf to secure a loan. That's really big. You know, that's not SBA, that's that's the city. So you just, you know, there's a lot of resources out there.
And I'm getting interested. In the city of Mesa, we have an organization called NEDCO. That is a micro lender that will lend up to $50,000 to a business. So if you know that you need to get your business started and you need up to $50,000, this is maybe we can talk about NEDCO.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so NEDCO would be a great option. NEDCO's great. Unfortunately, you know, we wish we had more NEDCOs in other cities because they're so flexible. They're so flexible with how they perceive the borrower. So that's really important.
Just for clarification, with NECO, you have to be resident of Mesa?
I'm sorry?
With NECO, you have to be resident of Mesa or just have your business in Mesa?
The business must be in Mesa. I don't believe you have to be a resident of the city, but the business must be in the city of Mesa.
The reason they want the businesses to be there is because you're generating taxes, right, as the business, and so they want to build jobs in Mesa. They want to increase the tax revenue in Mesa, so that's why it's like a city focus. Now, Ms. Ouzts was talking about the online training. This would be the webpage. I can even give this to you if you want to.
Well, if I just open it up and show them where it is, what it looks like, and some of the things that they can learn from it, that's being helpful to them. Tease them.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting?
Okay, so that link took you to all these really random but very helpful courses. So we have Encore Entrepreneurship for Women, Cybersecurity for Small Businesses, HUBZone is another contracting program, Competitive Advantage, Establishing Values for Your Business. I mean, there are so many courses, Young Entrepreneurs, Strategic Planning. You know, I mean, very helpful stuff. So this is price evaluation preference, that's for contracting. So there's a lot of great videos. There's also, so let's say, okay, so I was talking about business plans, right? Okay, so do you see up here how they're starting and managing, closing brands, contracting, learning center, local assistance about SBA? Okay, now keep in mind if you're ever looking for something and you can't find it, just go to this search window because it actually is a very good search feature. You just, if you can't find it, you'll be able to find it using that search feature.
Would you want to go into the Learning Center and see what else is in there? They've got four major areas. There's the online training, there's videos, you know, there's a chat session, and then they've got everything else. Because the online training has got a lot of written material that you can look up and read about certain things, as well as the videos to help you to navigate your thing. Click on the online training and just let me take a peek at what's in there.
So this is the area that we, so that link took us directly to the online training section. So let's look at chat sessions. that's more training. So the nice thing about this is if you look at this section here, find by topic, you can just click and it'll actually take you to the trainings that pertain to the general area that you're interested in. So that's very helpful. So instead of just, so it kind of just filters through and just identifies those.
Did you say, are those self-paced courses?
Yeah, you just click on it and you just start the course yourself. There's no, I mean, it's just you and the computer.
Some of them aren't even structured quite like courses, it's more like a 7-minute video.
Quick.
Yeah. So you really,
Right.
really can get a dose in a very quick time frame.
Right. It's not like a certification type of thing or anything like that. Let's see, so, okay, so this area up here, so if you go, let's say, you want to look at business planning. So the starting and managing section would be like the resources, like the counseling part of the C. So you would go to, so you can say like, create your business plan. So this would be a general sort of skeleton guideline to what is in a business plan. You have the executive summary, company description, and when you click on it, so like organization and management, marketing and sales. So if you click on one, for example, it kind of explains to you what to include in that area, which you're already learning all this. So
I have a question. What do you find is the biggest mistake people make when they go to work with the SBA from a business standpoint?
yes, that's a very good question. So one of the biggest mistakes, so because if, like, for instance, if you're going for a loan, you're going to a lender, right? One of the biggest mistakes for people seeking capital, seeking financing, is that they don't actually know how much money they need and what the use of proceeds is. So it's like, you walk into a bank and you talk to a loan officer and they say, okay, so what kind of a business are you starting? Such and such. Well, how much money do you need? Oh, about 150 to 300,000. Well, what are you going to use it for? Like equipment, maybe buy some property. You have to know what it is that you need the money for. And surprisingly enough, that's a very common thing that happens with lenders. Is that's some of their number one feedback, is that borrowers don't know how much money they need and what they need the money for. It's not, you can't go into a bank not knowing how much money you need, because they're not going to take you very seriously. And a business plan kind of helps you figure that out. As far as from like a counselor standpoint, it's really just across the board. I mean, there's not, it's important to have some basic knowledge of what questions you need to ask when you go to see a counselor. You will get more out of your counseling session if you have some idea of what it is you want to know. And so, because some people, they call and they're like, I just want to know how to start a business. Well, are you looking, like, what types of licensing do you need? Are you looking, like, what are good sources of financing? Are you looking, what's a good location? Like, what exactly, what aspect of it is it that you're interested in talking more about? But the nice thing is you can always go back to a counselor once you kind of get more information. So it's really like a reiterative process with the counselor. If you go to local assistance, so if you want to find out who the participating lenders are with SBA, you could go to local assistance and you go to district offices. So see, these are all the district offices.
I mean, I know that the GS 151 class, I know your class ends in just a couple of minutes. I would really like to give you an opportunity to ask one or two questions of anything that you'd like to understand better about what does the federal government do that could benefit a business, so that you can walk away with something that you didn't know but might be of help to you either in this class or in any other future business venture you might go into. Anything that you guys have an interest in wanted to understand better. I welcome it. I know you're going to have to see that really soon. Okay, so if somebody were to ask you this afternoon, what does the SBA do? What would you tell them?
Contracting, capital, counseling.
The 3C.
Okay, good. And by the way, we do thank you for joining us, because we know that your class is in just a minute or two, so as soon as you're ready to go, I'll let you guys go ahead and sneak on out. If you want to use that door over there, I'd appreciate it though, and the rest of us, we're going to stick around, and we're going to have some more questions, okay?
Okay, so just to kind of move forward with that, so Arizona District Office, you just click on Arizona District Office, and we have our office directory. So if you go down to this section here from our office, okay? So this is the resource guide. There's a few copies of it up here, but we like to, be paper-free. So there's a copy of the resource guide also here, a link to it, and it's very, very beneficial. Like it goes, basically everything in this section, that starting and managing section, is included in the resource guide. So that's really helpful. So Arizona SBA lender list here, if you click on that, it should lead you to active SBA lenders located in Arizona. And so these are the lenders, these are the ones that participate in the SBA program. Okay, now there's a key here, there's a key at the bottom that kind of explains to you like what some of this stuff here is. But these would be like the loan products, this is the area, the market area. Some of them don't do startups, some of them do startups. Phone number, this phone number is important because it gets you directly to the individual who does SBA at that bank. Because sometimes you'll call and they'll say, oh, we don't do SBA here. Well, because some person who doesn't even know about SBA answers the phone. So if you use these numbers, it should get you directly to the SBA person. These are some of the minimum loan sizes. So if you're looking for a smaller loan, you target the areas, the lenders that do more smaller loans. Looking for a larger loan, you target the larger loans. There's just a lot of information here. So let's see. So let me ask this question. This is our contact information. Okay, so what do all of these businesses, what do you think all of these businesses have in common?
They pay taxes.
Yeah, they do have that, yes. That's not the answer I was looking for, but yes. Yes.
They've already built like a reputation.
They've already built a reputation.
They
Yeah.
had to get a loan.
They had to get a loan, and they've all worked with SBA when they were small. All of these businesses here have sought assistance from SBA, either in terms of counseling or loans, like you were saying. So they were all SBA customers when they started. So does anybody have any questions?
What kind of money do you need? Where are you going to get it from? What is it you don't know about how to get a loan that you can start asking?
What kind of paperwork besides like your income statement and business plan do you need?
That's a good question. You'll need your income statements, you'll need your financial statements, you'll need to submit taxes, like past 3 years taxes. It depends on the industry, like if you'll need to submit your certifications, like if your industry requires that you have a certification, you have to submit those licenses. You also have to, if you're building, you need to submit environmental impact reports. It really comes down to how complex the situation is. Like if you're building something, then you need to submit environmental impact reports. That could take, so that loan, getting that loan can take a lot longer than if it's just like a simple working capital loan or something like that, or a line of credit.
How important is the business plan?
The business plan is very important because it basically tells the lender that you've done your research, because this is the thing, lenders, they don't always know about every industry, right? They don't know about every market. It doesn't mean that they won't loan money to you in that market, but the way that you show them that you understand the market is with a business plan. So the business plan is extremely important because it shows them that you've done your research. I mean, of course, you have to be able to know your own business plan. Like some people, they will hire somebody to do a business plan for them. They'll present it to the lender, and then the lender will start asking them questions about, their monthly, profits or their competition. And the borrower is like, oh, I don't know, someone else did the business plan. So it's important because the business plan helps you understand your market and your competitors and what your needs are and what type of financing needs you'll need, but it also helps the lender understand it as well, so that the lender can gain a better educated understanding of how they should be working with you, what types of assistance they should be giving you.
What's like the success rate of businesses that go through this? Like get a loan or have the services of this?
Well, as far as the success rate, I'd probably be able to give you the success rate from the perspective of lending. Because success rate from the perspective of counseling, it's hard for me to quantify that. But around like 5% or so don't, like, we have a low rate of default with SBA loans. So, yes.
I know you said that there was an area for counseling. Let's say I take out a loan for, let's say, $50,000, and I started my business, and it's been like maybe 6 months in my business, I've been operating, but I haven't been making as much profit as I think I should or could. Do you guys offer any other kind of services, after, getting a loan, maybe to help counsel them to improve their business?
That's exactly what the SBDC and SCORE can help you with. And we have had a lot of, I don't know the numbers right offhand, but the SBDC does track that type of number, like how much they increase the revenue of businesses. And they're there to assist you when you're starting your business, but they're also there to assist you when you're expanding your business or when your business needs help,
Is the SBA only allowed, so let's say I want to then start a business maybe in Mexico. Is that only in the United States? So you guys don't operate outside of the country?
We don't. Yeah, you have to be paying American taxes. The majority of your business needs to be US based.
It is free to businesses because of the tax dollars that you as individuals and businesses have paid.
To
And we
the
think
US government.
it's in the best interest of our economy to continue to foster good economic development and growth of businesses.
What if I live here in the United States and I should have a business over there?
The business has to be a
Keep in
US
mind,
based.
they're financing the
The
business. The business is what they're focused on.
Yes, the business has to be US.
Does the 7A loan, is that for new businesses or is that for established businesses?
It can also be for new businesses. It's just the name of the umbrella loan. Underneath it, new businesses, startup businesses include, we have like little sub-products. Like one of the products is export working capital. So let's say you want to export to Mexico or something like that. There is a working capital product that allows you to export. You still have to be a US-based business, but yeah, so the 7A would be for startups, new businesses, expanding businesses.
Since contracts can't get loans, are we still able to use counseling or use other resources?
Yeah, you can, and it's not, and I don't know that you can't get loans, it's just the SBA guarantee, that gets a little tricky. You can, there's a whole world of finance out there outside of SBA, that you could get loans for. The counseling, it doesn't matter. Like you don't have to be an SBA loan holder to get the counseling.
Let's say I wanted to, be a franchisee, franchise Mickey D's. Yeah, today, I'm ready for my question.
Do they
Today,
vote?
would you be able to like provide me with information such as like what they pay for like salary, wages, expenses versus profit, you know, just to maybe something to help convince myself if I want to franchise at McDonald's or not?
Usually you would go to that company and request that type of information. Because if they want to sell franchises, they'll have information like that, statistics that you have access to in order to figure out whether or not it makes sense for you to further pursue a relationship.
So that would be on the franchise?
That would be, you would contact that company. You could probably work with a counselor to figure out how to do that. You know, with the counselor, that's information that's provided and generated by the company
So
itself.
they just direct you to them?
Yeah, so they can help you figure out how to access that information. Yes.
How much can you negotiate, if you're going to get a loan, how much can you negotiate, like, interest rate?
I mean, I think it's a little variable, that I can't say, well, you know, for sure, if you go to 3 different lenders and you have this credit score, you're gonna get this interest rate. It's very variable. But the thing is that don't ever take out a loan that you don't feel comfortable with. That's first and foremost. And if it's a more flexible lender, you can negotiate more. So there are some lenders that, let's say for instance, they're lenders that are able to advertise all across the United States to get the best applicants. You would be able to negotiate with them less because they have more people applying for loans, so they can pick and choose. Whereas maybe like a smaller bank has less people, you might be able to negotiate with them more. It's not like a perfect science.
I probably missed this in the beginning, but as far as SBA, what is considered a small business, or like what is the cap on the?
Maybe, can you share 2 examples maybe about, you know, because that'd be a good perspective on.
Okay, so as far as, so there's 2 ways to figure out whether or not your business is small, according to SBA, okay? One of them, it's very simple. It's 15 million average assets, net assets over 2 years, and 5 million average revenue over 2 years. If you're above that, you're not a small business. If you're below that, you are a small business. There's also, if you go to sba.gov/size standards. Now these are those industry, remember I was talking about industry, like if you're this industry, you have a higher size standard. You go to table of small size standards. And you can go like in the PDF here. And SBA actually establishes North American Industry Classification System codes for small businesses. NAICS codes. SBA establishes what NAICS codes, what threshold is considered small. So like if you're, you know, well that's maybe more common.
Why don't you use the aerospace?
Aerospace, do you know which NAICS code, which area that is?
I don't know,
Okay.
I don't know the NAICS, but
Let's see, I know
airplane manufacturing.
airplane manufacturer. Let's see, airplane. Okay, so let's say, so like engineering services, okay, those are the 541s. General engineering services, except military, aerospace equipment, and military weapons. would be, in basic engineering services, the threshold is 15 million revenue per year.
You're less than that, you're a small business.
You're considered a small business. So you would look in the NAICS codes. Manufacturing tends to go by the number of employees. Services tends to go by revenue. So that's how you can figure out if you're small, or to SBA, it could also be the 15 million, 5 million average over 2 years.
If you set up a website for those, say you're in a craft manufacturer, you know who your competitors were?
You don't know who your competitors are?
Right, and you want to do the press release, this is good for your competitors, you see website or different?
Talk with me afterwards, we got a great resource in the library for you.
Yeah, that's a good question, and without going into crazy amounts of detail.
Well, so specifically, I just said as an example, you're starting your own business, don't know who your competitors are, or website.
One thing that I do know, like if you're trying to sell your goods to the federal government, you can actually go to, like for instance, Fed Biz Ops, Federal Business Opportunities. These are all the contracts. Like this is where you go if you're looking to bid on a contract. This is where all the contracts are posted for the federal government. You can actually type in agency or solicitation, or you should be able to type in NAICS code, and you can actually click through the NAICS codes and find who else has those NAICS codes. Or you could go to Dynamic Small Business Search. That's the list of small businesses that sell their goods to the federal government, and actually input the NAICS code, which is the industry code. Those would be your competitors, and it'll list in Arizona who are the people who are listed as selling their goods to the federal government. It gives you an idea of who your competitors are, but it sounds like there's also maybe more straightforward ways to do it.
What else do you guys really want to know about? If I go to the SBA, what can I use them for? How do I use them?
Are there any women-based like loan programs?
So the SBA Guarantee Program is non-discriminatory. And what that means is that we give no preference. So there are no women-based loan programs, but for the contracting side, there is a women-owned small business certification that you can get to go after some of that 23% we were talking about. The 23% of the money that's set aside is strictly set aside for women-owned small businesses. So if you get that certification, you can go after that money. But as far as lending, no. Did you have a, yeah.
Just to show what you were talking about, if you could show that there was native discrimination in the industry you were working in, what you were saying before were like, oh, I'm in construction and there's not a lot of women in construction. If you can back that, you can get, a certain portion of that funding.
Yeah, because you would be considered socially disadvantaged.
Yeah,
you also
that's-
have to be economically, like
Yeah.
you have to be a small business. That's basically what that means.
Yeah.
So you have to be socially and economically disadvantaged. But yeah, if you can show them, they do make
I think we're all economically disadvantaged if we were going to be
Yeah,
starting
we are.
businesses. So we kind of make that line. So if you can make a case for yourself that, hey, I'm working in engineering and that's, a male-dominated field,
Yes,
if
then
I'm
you-
working in computer
right.
science or et cetera, so,
They would consider it.
yeah.
Did you have, is there a question back here?
But you would have to be contracted with the government in order to get that 23% though.
Well, this is the thing. You are a contractor, so that 23%, you have to bid on contracts, like freeway building contract. You bid on that contract as a women-owned small business because it's set aside for a woman-owned small business. That's part of the 23%. They say, we want to hire a woman-owned small business to extend the freeway, the 202 or something like that. So you bid on it. You find the opportunity in Fed Biz Ops, FBO. You find the opportunity, you bid on it, and then when you get it, you're now contracted with the federal government. You're a federal government contractor now. a private business who is being hired by the federal government to provide a service. But you have to be like certified. You know, you have to have one of those. So getting the certification doesn't get you the contracts. Getting the certification gets you access to that 23% of the money that's set aside for it. Yeah.
So does that mean you're thinking about like local small businesses? Do they show like local person to go into?
What was that?
Like the loans and everything else, search big branches, so they list local branches, or is it mostly already online?
Like for what? For which? So you're looking if, like how to qualify for
Well, say it's just the fitness office.
that business?
Like, so it's mostly online, so research on there's already also branches and other businesses that we
So you're at like, are you talking about doing like market research on FedBizOps, like to find your competitors?
or like we're walking into like an insurance car insurance, so like there are like some branches or like usually loans and have like other businesses like that or other people. I'm thinking of the bank really, but there are like other types of loans.
I mean, loans other than the SBA might make?
Yes, well, I was wondering if the SBA lists all of their qualified
What do lending institutions have to do to partner with the SBA?
Okay, so they actually, it's pretty simple. They have to fill out a participation agreement with the SBA. They have to be financially sound institutions, and they show that in certain ratios that they present to the SBA. It's not that difficult to become a participating lender. However, SBA does not, like, if we, let's say you're a certain industry, you're looking for a certain size loan, and, you know, we will give you at least three sources of, like, 3 recommendations. We can't, we're not supposed to have preference. So if you ask us, well, what's a good institution to go to for restaurants? We'll give you like three lenders that do restaurants. And that list that I showed you, like the participating lenders list, it gives you some information about that too.
I would encourage you though to take advantage of the 3 they might give you, but don't limit yourself to what they're recommending, because you may, literally it becomes dialing for dollars. Okay, because when you've got a great business idea and you want it to launch, you become passionate about getting the money to get it to launch. And you may find that both the bank and the SBA, neither one of them want to lend to you. You're going, but I still know I can do this. I still know this can make a profit. I still know this is a great business idea. You don't give up at that point. You then start to pursue other options, and we are going to, as the next week or so goes by, we're going to talk about other options.
And the thing, yeah, other options are important, especially in this day and age. There are so many other options. There are a lot of other options besides traditional lending. But it's important to listen to the feedback from these lenders too. Like if they say, oh no, we're not interested, and this is the reason why, listen to what they say, because maybe they're finding some weaknesses in your business plan or your idea that you're not seeing. So pay attention to what they say too, because that's also education for you.
You know where the website is, and I'm going to take advantage of it, because I've had students call them and look stuff up, and they said, no, they got stuff that they didn't know, that they needed to know for their business or their industry. So, and you've already paid for it, at least, well, if you have it, you'll pay for it in about 2 weeks. Yeah, I think April 15th, everybody pays for it.
Yeah, that's right. All right, thank you.
Thanks.